It is time to breathe again on the latest breath of fresh air, Shortie, with your host Charles Taylor. So we are gonna jump right into these topics. This is gonna be a football heavy Shortie, talking about both college and the NFL. And we will start with college because I wanted to discuss the coaching carousel that's going on. Not necessarily in terms of head coaching firings, but what some of these head coaches are doing with their assistants. Specifically, I'm talking about Lincoln Riley at USC and James Franklin at Penn State. And at some point, both of these men, Riley and Franklin, they're going to have to start looking in the mirror and see what's going on with them because they're going through, they're firing their coordinators. Lincoln Riley fired his offensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, or excuse me, Lincoln Riley fired his defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, and James Franklin fired his offensive coordinator, Mike Urich. So what's funny about both of these moves, starting with Lincoln Riley, is it's perplexing to me that he would go and fire his defensive coordinator when no Lincoln Riley head coach team in the history of life has never played defense, has ever played defense. So now all of a sudden you want to fire the defensive coordinator when you've been the constant. He has been the guy there ever since he became a head coach back in 2017 during his days in Oklahoma. That their teams have never played defense. They could never stop anybody. Yeah, they could outscore people. Yeah, he has the lineage of Heisman Trophy winners he's had: Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and now Caleb Williams. Jalen Hurts would have won the Heisman that year in 2019 if it wasn't for that historic year Joe Burrow had with LSU. But look, the offense, you know you're gonna get that, but you're not winning a championship if you're not multiple, if you're not doing multiple things well. And Lincoln Riley's teams have never played defense. Before they he decided to fire the defensive coordinator, they gave up 52 points to Washington, and then they gave up 36 points to Oregon in another loss. So apparently that move didn't do anything, and it probably won't do anything because again, the constant is Lincoln Riley does not prioritize defense, and until he does, then that team, whoever he's coaching, will never win a championship, a national championship, ever in the history of life. Going on over to James Franklin, same thing. Offenses putrid, especially when they play against Michigan or Ohio State. What we kept hearing all year is, oh, this might be the year Penn State makes that step. This might be the year Penn State makes that leapfrog and make some noise and win the Big Ten, which they have won a Big Ten title, which was back in 2016 since James Franklin became the coach, I think in 2014. But lately, when they play against Michigan or Ohio State, it has been offensive game plan that has been very, very conservative. I mean, they don't even throw a forward pass or a deep pass at all. And you're not beating those teams that way. You have to take some chances. You have to take some shots if you are going to beat these teams. And James Franklin, over and over and over again, when it comes to these games, there's no aggressiveness. It's a let's play it safe all the time, and you're not winning anything that way if you're gonna continue to just be conservative at the moments of truth. So he goes and fires the offensive coordinator, Urix, and we'll see what happens. I mean, look, they'll probably put up 40 or 50 points against whoever they're playing this week, and they're gonna act like everything's fixed. But it's still the same story. When Penn State plays Michigan or Ohio State, they're gonna go conservative again, and they're gonna continue to lose, and they're gonna continue to be the third best team in the Big Ten conference. Well, maybe that won't even continue once Oregon and Washington on top of UCLA and USC. We just mentioned USC. They might be somewhat better than them, but when they come over to the Big Ten, Penn State could be looking at a fourth or fifth place perennial finish. So the constant, just like with Lincoln Riley, is James Franklin. The offenses do not show up, no matter who is there, no matter who is recruited. When they play in those bigger games, they go conservative, and that's because the head coach is approving that game plan. So, just like I said with Lincoln Riley, James Franklin as well will never win a national championship with Penn State or any other team he coaches because he's always going to lean on the side of being very ultra conservative over taking some chances. And until you make that change, then it's going to be the status quo. Penn State's going to be knocking on the door, but not coming in. USC, on the other side, going to be knocking on the door, not able to come in. Another thing with college, Jimbo Fisher, gone, fired from Texas A&M. Now, he has been there for 6 years, or almost 6 years, and I think he had more than enough time to do something. It was just crazy when you go back to 2018 and Texas A&M made that hire, or before the 2018 season, they made that hire and they made this makeshift college football playoff national championship trophy and had a nameplate ready for A&M to win the championship. They just didn't know the year. And of course, they are still waiting. They have not even sniffed a SEC championship game, not let alone a national championship game. And the teams have been very average, if not below average. A couple of them seasons, they didn't even make a bowl game. So, look, I don't understand what A&M was doing when they decided to extend his contract. He had been there for 4 years. You were getting lame results, and you decided to extend him because he had the number one recruiting class. Okay, cool. You can recruit him, but it's just like I was saying about my school all the time with Texas. The Longhorns were my favorite team, my favorite college team. If you don't know how to coach them when you get there, what the hell did you recruit them for? It doesn't matter how big the class is or how great the class is. If you're not coaching them to victories and wins and ultimately championship games, it really does not matter. Jimbo Fisher had an ample amount of time, and it was time for him to go. Now, on the subject of the Texas A&M job itself, I have heard people say, "Oh, well, it's a mess down there." I wouldn't go that far. That is still a very attractive job because you are going to have unlimited resources, unlimited facilities, and you're in the state of Texas. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Texan myself. It's the fact. You will have unlimited resources there. You will have a chance to build a power. They just need a guy who can come in there and run the team good. It just seemed like it was always chaos with Jimbo Fisher there. So if they can get a guy in there, and it doesn't have to be the splashy hire, just get the right guy, the guy who can fit. Maybe you do go to one of the smaller colleges. Maybe it is UTSA, and you bring in Jeff Traylor instead of some of the people I've heard. I've heard Washington's coach Caleb DeBoers could be a candidate. Also, Oregon's coach Dan Lanning could be a candidate too. I don't know if you really need those guys. Just get someone who can be substance and not the splash in the style. If you get that, then you can see A&M potentially in an SEC championship game. But it's going to be really tough, of course, with the depth in that conference. Let's move on real quick to the NFL. There's a couple of games that are catching my eye, and they're both the night games. The Sunday night game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos, all of a sudden, is very, very interesting. Minnesota started off 1-4, 0-3, and then 1-4, and they have won 5 in a row, and they are 6-4. Kirk Cousins, who y'all know I have criticized a lot, was actually playing well until he had the unfortunate Achilles tear against the Green Bay Packers. But lo and behold, here's Joshua Dobbs coming in, and he's galvanized that team, and they are looking like they believe they could do something. And they still have to play the Detroit Lions twice, so the NFC North isn't necessarily out of reach for them. But they're going to play a Denver Broncos team who I've also criticized heavily, but the Denver Broncos have reeled off 3 in a row. They're sitting at 4-5. They thoroughly defeated the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks ago, and they just had a Monday night win in Buffalo against the Bills. So all of a sudden, a Sunday night game that looked like it was going to be flexed out of the schedule by NBC potentially now looks really, really interesting. And I think that would be a great game taking place Sunday night in Denver. And then the Monday night game, rematch of the Super Bowl from last year. The Philadelphia Eagles come to Kansas City's Arrowhead Stadium to play the Chiefs. Going to be interesting to see how those teams match up and if anything changes. I mean, that game, the Super Bowl went down to the wire. Kansas City won 38-35, and I expect a lot of the same there. So it's going to be a really good football weekend coming up on the Thanksgiving. I hope everybody gets to enjoy it. Other than that, that's what I'm breathing on for today. So y'all make sure y'all visit the Breath of Fresh Air YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, and follow the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook page. I hope to come back on another shorty before the Thanksgiving break. Until then, everybody enjoy the games, enjoy the weekend, and take it easy. And take care of each other. So y'all take care, and we'll talk soon.